Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's episode of Gym Owners Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Stone. Over there's John Fairbanks. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Tyler.
We're here.
We've never talked about, I literally started the last episode talking about what you were wearing, but now I'm going to do it again. So for all of our listeners, you're just going to have to deal with it. Yeah. So you wear, every once in a while, you wear these war mode shirts and sweatshirts and hats.
Yeah.
And I have to call them out because they usually look really fucking awesome.
Yeah. I have another show that has shares a web store with the War Mode podcast, which is kind of like my favorite conspiracy themed. If you like us, but maybe not sure if you're going to like our opinions on all these other things, maybe don't check out War Mode. By the way, they don't need your fucking money at this point, but go to their web store is bohemiangrove.com. That's where the Conspiracy Randy web store is. So sharing a web store with them gets me a lot of other adjacent, like related sales, just because we are in the same. They get a ton of traffic now, so yeah, they got nice designs. I like the show. War Mode, man.
Yeah, so it's sweet. Like, so for our listeners,
this one's
is bad.
The AC/DC.
For those about to rock,
design.
It's the cannon, and it's going to shoot. Yeah. But anyway,
War Mode.
I dig it.
So this is speaking of podcasts, though. That you want to get frustrated. Let's get into this, guys. Fuck, we're just going to dive into a bunch of shit today. Today's going to be kind of a loose episode, but we have a lot of stuff from the Gym Owners business side. Also, we're going to open up to you guys sending us some stories and stuff about life of gym owners. So we'll get into all of that eventually. We want to talk to you about brand building first, because this is a thing that I think is really important for people to understand. I've helped a lot of people start podcasts over the years. I've started a lot of podcasts over the years, and we built a lot from zero up to many are operating and still doing very, very well. Some podcasts that I help people start, they don't stick with long enough to do anything with. But if I were to make one thing describe it as a universal truth, it would probably be you need to know famous people before you expect your shit to just pop. Like, you can either hope to get really, really, really viral, or you got to sit in the pocket and do a lot of work for a really, really, really long time, right? If you're not just going to be thirsty and networking and lack substance, you got to settle in and just do the fucking good job, deliver a good product for long. It's not unlike gyms, whereas you need to be delivering results, and you need to be talking about it, and you need to continue. When people come in, they need to have good experiences and get solid outcomes, and your brand will continue to grow and continue to grow. It doesn't happen overnight. That viral shit, if you want to be the Hawk Tuah chick of fitness or whatever, just go start making like thirsty viral chasing video shit. Every single other brand that's trying to get a little bit of coverage out there. Even the gym consulting stuff now is doing this. You see some of the Gym Launch stuff now is just literally they're just chasing viral trends, but on the business side, and it's fucking really lame. And it just makes you not trust people like that with anything associated with your brand. Now on the podcast side, which is funny because War Mode, these guys were one of them was a dump truck driver, one of them was a painter.
Yeah.
Right. In Philadelphia. And the whole show was kind of based on them just calling each other all day while they were just working and just talking shit. Like these guys got sucked into the QAnon vortex and were I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton's in jail right now. And it, you know what I mean? And it was, but it was, I don't know. It was a good listen. It was fun. They were the bros or whatever. But there's one, and now they went from kind of nothing to now I think they quit their jobs essentially. And I looked up their Patreon the other day. They make $55,000 a month on Patreon.
A month.
With, by the way, that's now no overhead. They don't even make but maybe one or two Patreon episodes a month. So they make 3 to 4 episodes a month, of just no prep, just talking. It's the type of stuff that makes you very jealous as a podcaster of motherfucker, when do I get mine? But you can sit there and wonder, God, why isn't my comedy conspiracy podcast popping like that? Or why isn't my gym as popular as this others? Here's why War Mode got popular. Billy McCusker, one of the hosts of War Mode's brother, is Matt McCusker. Matt McCusker has a podcast called Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast with Shane Gillis. They've been friends for decades, and they were doing that podcast long before Shane got hired and fired from SNL, and long before he became the most essentially famous comedian in the world right now. Highest selling for sure.
That's friends with Joe Rogan.
It's friends with Joe Rogan, and now McCusker's been on Joe Rogan. Shane has been on War Mode, and Billy at McCusker has now been on Matt and Shane's a bunch. Right? And Matt and Shane makes, I think, like $1 million a month, damn near, like on. So,
hurts your feelings.
But when I sit here, you can sit here and go, God, I've been really paying my dues and stuff. Like, when do I get mine? It's like, listen,
Yeah.
you do. There is more to this than that. It's not just nepotism necessarily. It's not really. It's like I was listening to Matt and Shane's podcast, and somebody was talking about, or Matt essentially was asked, like, well, what's the secret to, like, how do you make this stuff work? And he literally, his exact words were like, you need to be best friends with someone who achieves an absolutely transcendent level of fame. And then, yeah, that's how you make podcasts successful. And I think that's actually really important for people to get, though, which is like, chill your expectations. You do need to do this for the love of the game. And if you do it for a long enough time, like whether it's coaching, whether it's podcasting, whether it's anything that you're trying to do, eventually you'll get yours, or fucking maybe not. But like, if you like what you're doing and you continue to try to improve how you do it, like, it's not a wasted endeavor. If you get into podcasting and you don't already have all these connections and like a lot of fucking like access and a good plan and then resources to make the media that is required in order to like promote your shit and the time to do it. And you got to be good. Are we assuming that you're good? Are you assuming that your first 20 hours of doing something that you're going to be good enough to where you should be making a lot of money? Mm-hmm. That's a bold assumption, right? If I just pick up a basketball this week and I'm like, I am tall. Why am I not in the NBA? I've played basketball like 20 times this month. I shoot around. I've been working on my free throws. It's like, well, yeah, but there's levels to this shit. Yeah. And I think that it is really important to know that, like, if you're starting podcasting thinking you're going to make money, just know you're going to be yelling into the void for a very long time. And that's okay. As long as you're right and you enjoy what you're doing. And the people that are listening like it. On my other show, John, we have a bit, I'm not going to get into any of the details of that on this platform. We have a bit that just all of a sudden got us a ton of feedback in the last week. Oh my God, that was so funny. For people that I didn't even know listen to
for months. I had been telling you though, but for months I've been telling you, like, hey, this is really fun. I'm totally biased, but this is super funny, you guys.
Yeah, it's gonna get you kicked off of lots of things, but it's really funny. But what happens is I was like, you're getting feedback from that stuff. And I was like, I didn't even know you guys were still listening. Oh my God, I listen every day, every week. I love it. I wait for it. It's on my schedule. I was like, I thought there was 5 of them. I thought there was like 5 people, and you were one of them. My wife was
and I'm one of them.
And like, I knew we've had big platform bursts on other platforms, but I didn't expect that much listenership. So again, I guess what I'm getting at here is for War Mode, it felt like you're watching something organic, like these guys are just dump truck driving and just ranting about conspiracies, and now they're, holy shit, living the dream. But you're like, yeah, it's not just that. You know what I mean? Right. And that happened with 0 marketing, 0 social media, 0 promotions, 0 whatever. But hey, I got a web store same as theirs, and I get a little bit of money every month because some people click around that same website and buy some of our shit. Because it's certainly in our people buying our own shit.
But I will tell you, but here's the point: is that it's good.
It is good.
And this is kind of one, it is like, it's the designs.
By the way, if you're listening to this, don't go listen to War Mode. This is not for you. I promise it's not for you. Unless you've been way down in some of those rabbit holes, you are not built for what that show is. I promise. If you think Alex Jones is too much, War Mode is the most inside conspiracy baseball you're going to get. And unless you know all the terms and all the players, it's going to fly way over your head and be weird.
Or worst case scenario, you actually get dragged deep into the black pill and you're like, oh no. You ain't I think life is fake. Yeah. Like, I think like you just immediately kill yourself. Yeah. But the point I was driving at was like, the idea though is that it's good. And this is kind of one of those things where it's like what you're doing is good. So it's just as a matter of audience and eyeballs and traffic, right? So it's kind of like in the beginning, you're trying to create a thing that is good, that you enjoy and that you love. And the only reason why you're willing to make it good is because you love the process of trying to make it good. Yeah. And then the success part, and this is why fucking goddamn Van Gogh, right, kills himself or whatever and never realizes that anyone gives a fuck about his paintings until long after he's dead. But the reality is, like, it still was good. It just was an issue of nobody fucking cared. And obviously money laundering just hadn't come to the art world quite yet when he was still alive. When he was still alive. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so I wanted to call it out. Just again, bad for audio. Highly recommend. Pop over. Like we're getting these episodes that are getting uploaded into YouTube now regularly. We'll start getting these videos uploaded now into Spotify. I think
This is
Spotify
funny, by the
allows
way.
us to.
We've made video of everyone.
Oh yeah, we have like
We just don't
from
really
the
put
very
them out.
very
We were
beginning.
dropping them all in the Facebook group for a bit.
Yep.
But now it's like, yeah, we might as well have them on the other thing. But it is funny to have had hundreds and hundreds of hours of video. Be like, yeah, I'll just stick to the audio.
Well,
It's a weird thing to watch a fucking gym business show.
Well,
like, I don't know. I respect it. Whatever gets you watching. But
it's not like we're not showing, like we've done some episodes where we'll show, hey, we're looking at this thing, we'll pull it up and show. But otherwise, you're just looking at two just dashedly handsome,
well,
big,
like, who
bald,
wants to
bearded
look at
guys.
guys' faces while they talk? This is just a talking head show. You know what I mean? I don't.
Correct.
It almost like it kind of proves a lot of why TV sucks too. It's when you watch some of these talking head political shows, just people arguing. It's like you do realize that like we could just listen to this actually.
Yeah, this
for
is
the
a
most
podcast.
part. It's just people.
This is a podcast on TV. Yeah.
So, guys, we're going to jump in. I want to get in right away here. Day in the life of the gym owner. This is going to be a segment. I want you guys to send us your submissions for this. I want you to send us of like your most stressful day, or just I want you to zoom into one situation, one thing that's like your when it rains, it pours. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why am I
Hashtag
doing this?
gym owner life.
Yeah, right. Because we got this message from somebody who's going to start up with us here next a couple of weeks here. But I'll just read it without giving away any real details. But our general manager blew up his life, left his family, and ran away with our Pilates instructor last week. So
first and foremost, right? Like from there, right? It's like, wait a second. Now I've known some dudes that have done this. There was a guy that we used to go to church with, and when we were still in Florida, and we were really close with them as a family, and they were like ultra pious. Like super uber religious, like questionable. Maybe he's molesting the kids. That's how like saintly they were, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're like, ain't nobody this pious. Yeah.
But then when we're like getting to know him better or whatever, and then we find out that he's got like a secret stash. I'm talking like 20 terabytes of rated R movies. So like on like real quick, like
hold on. Okay.
So
this is more.
I was raised Mormon, right?
Okay.
So I was raised Mormon,
when
right?
You say rated R, I'm like,
this rated R movies, right? This is like XXX, right? Like this is the equivalent of CP that's sitting on your hard drives. But he's got all these. And now, to be granted, I didn't see everything that's on all the external hard drives.
Yeah.
But I do know that like we were the only other people like that he knew that were practicing Mormons at the time that he could be like, do you want to watch Gladiator? It's like shit. Nobody else will watch Gladiator with me. So it's like, all right, yeah, like we'll go.
Beverly Hills Cop 2.
That's exactly what it was. So it was awesome. So he was super stoked to be able to have like somebody else. And this is also back in the day when you like everyone knew somebody that was using torrents.
Yeah.
Like you were downloading, like you were deep into Pirate Bay, like you were like all about that shit, right? So that's where he was about that life, right? Of just harvesting. I don't even think movies that like it was so much content. There was no way for him to physically watch it in a lifetime.
Okay.
But it was like the thrill of pirating R-rated movies in his terabytes. He had so many that he had to have fans blowing like on the external hard drives and on the things he was using to keep it cool. Like anyway, so because this had been like
he's mining Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, like for sure. And so anyway, so we move away, whatever. And
he's like mining Tarantino movies.
That's what it is. He's like, oh, I finally got the Hateful Eight.
Yeah,
finally. And so it's like a decade later, and then we see like the wife changes her last name on Facebook, and we're like, oh shit, like these people were like super uber. So we find out he just goes off on a bender, like a cocaine. Just absolute bender to Vegas and is like fucking hookers, is gone for like 5 days. They think he's dead. Like they think someone has kidnapped him. Ends up that he's just has been doing blow and hookers for like a week, and then comes back and this is like, I don't want to be your husband anymore. And like, so like the exact scenario. So like what, just everything. I'm talking like, yeah. So it was like just crazy. So anyway, so same exact scenario, except this poor fucking guy. That's his general manager and a Pilates instructor. Like that means you're down 2 for 1, man. Like right out the gate. Like, and it's fucking 3 weeks before Christmas or whatever.
When it rains, it pours. And guys,
When it rains, it pours.
Y'all have had these days. I got a funny story about this. So before I opened my gym, the first one, a business partner, I think we were literally in the works with planning things. We were like in the process of finding location, right? I don't know that we had already I don't think we'd made a formal announcement yet or anything like that, but it was a done deal. Money was assembled. We were doing this. He was single. He was dating one of our clients who was, his age. He's young. He's in his mid-20s or whatever. But dating one of the clients, it's his age. And he's a fit guy, abs. She's a fit girl, trains a lot. So it's like, whatever. Makes sense. I can't argue with that. Until he then cheats on her with another one of our clients.
Oh my God.
Who is engaged to be married to the father of like a two-year-old child at the time. Girlfriend one finds out. Fucking then he just blows that up, then shacks up with the fucking new chick. And it's this massive drama amongst, by the way, what a bad like character move. First off, you're fucking how hard it's going to be for me to try to get normal fucking dudes to like let their wives come and train here now. Because
is this in a town of like 25,000 people?
Ab-havinest motherfucker. Yeah, 25,000 people in this town. The fittest, most ab-havinest motherfucker is just in there like teaching chicks how to squat, but also just like legit banging essentially married chicks in here. And I was like, well, fortunately they stay, the new relationship with the new piece fucking stuck around. Whether that's good, bad, or whatever is like, I told him, I was like, you fucking never again will you do anything like this again, or I'll fucking kill you. Because it was like literally so close to launch where I'm like, you fucking moron. I mean, almost nothing could sabotage your shit more if you're two dudes trying to open a gym and one of them
fucking
is
all
just
the ladies
pounding it out with fucking essentially like spoken for women. If it's the single, I mean, maybe, but even then at some point you're going to have a problem because that word's going to get out and people are just gonna be like, man, I don't fucking like that guy. That's a bad look, So
and
there was
always a bad look.
There's another one in a gym in a different country. I won't get into details, but you and I had a lot of business with that gym, right? And they got one of their coaches was a single boy at the time, kind of a party boy. And the most popular, he's the one who did essentially all of the coaching there, was pretty much that gym as far as everybody's concerned. Everybody liked this guy.
Right.
He was so well liked. It's the only reason this didn't blow up in his face. He was there, and there was like times where he was telling me, he's like, I was at class today, and he's like, he was looking, and it was like 3 girls he's slept with, plus the one he's sleeping with recently, and then 2 like married women who were like trying to like, it was essentially like 8, 9 chicks that are like actively fighting over this dude, like in class. This weird like performative, how women get about like trying to get attention when they're lonely or whatever. And it's like that, except all German speaking and weird. So like, I don't even know the language. And I'm standing in there watching the subtleties of this going, just the physical fucked up. This is crazy.
Like, are we closing the big like garage door and we're just gonna, everyone's gonna fuck now?
Play some tunes. We're gonna drop the lights. It's nuts. So there's a lot of those days, I'm sure, as a gym owner. We've had gyms that have had floods. We've had gyms that, so I want to know your craziest day. Give me your craziest moment as a gym owner. Just shoot us in a message at the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram. I would love to hear it because some of these stories are nuts, whether it's client meltdowns, whether it's injuries, I used to love those old stories of Ronnie Teasdale's gym when he was in, I think, CrossFit LA. He was literally in Skid Row of Los Angeles. It's like, fucking psych. And this was before it was as bad as it is now. Right. This was like, it was still bad. There'd be like bums coming in wielding weapons and like wanting to fight and fucking just crazy stuff.
And it doesn't matter what the gym is because you had a great story of like running the MMA spot and the dude shows up with like borderline schizophrenic that has like ammunition in his body.
Said he wanted to give me a bunch. I told that story in here, right? Yeah, the guy came and gave me a handful of bullets. It's like, I think guys should have these and not me. I'm like, well, what are you going to do if you have these? Where are you going to go? You're on foot. You're just walking north. It's like 2 schools straight up this road. Like, what am I supposed to just let you out of here? Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
And, Yeah, so if you like the idea of the day in the life of a gym owner segment, the only way it's possible is if you share your shit, and for sure you've got stories.
Yeah, we'll do all this anonymously. If you want to air out some dirt,
Yeah.
I am about that life. Let's get gossipy on this. I'm about it.
Yeah.
About it,
because I think it's
too fun.
important.
It's also real. This shit happens. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with staff. You're dealing with the ebbs and flows of your own life is wild enough. But then you have a bunch of people going through like massive changes and priority changes, and there's just so many things that can happen around the context of a gym that's not going to happen if you own an arcade or a car wash or a fucking restaurant necessarily. It's just it's different. I would say our drama is more on par with bars than people think.
Or restaurants. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that was the so just immediately, it's so funny you said that because my mind goes to like Clerks and Clerks 2.
Yeah.
Have you seen those two movies?
Yeah.
So the idea where it's like, yeah, you know, I'm fucking this chick and her like poonander falls into the mayonnaise.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what I mean? It's like that kind of, it's like, wait, what? Hold on. Like, where are we eating now? Like, it's like, don't eat there. And so it's like, it's that kind of stuff, but it's so real. And I think there's also important where there's some lessons to be extrapolated. So I don't know if you know this, but I don't think it's as well, I say this and I immediately like play devil's advocate before I even say it. So like there's a career where you probably shouldn't be fucking your clients and your customers, right? And so I was raised, right, like career wise in education.
Yeah.
So we're getting them like I'm in my master's
boundary to have.
Right. And so, but the reality is that we hear of some teacher fucking their goddamn students like every year.
Every year there's something.
Every year it's a thing. And, you know, even it's so common, right? Like it's, you know, if either the Simpsons have done it or South Park has done it, it is in the zeitgeist, right? It's in our, like, just in the general public. And for sure, South Park did that whole episode where the teacher was fucking Kyle's little brother, like the kindergartner, the Canadian.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, nice. Like that kid's fucking that chick. That's awesome. But it's like, we literally had an instructor where her whole job was classroom management. And her leading unit, like the first unit was don't fuck your students. Like she literally was like, hey, and she was awesome. She was super, like she was a great instructor.
Just like, we're going to cover this one just in case you guys.
Like, just so you all, like you all have at least been told once, and I will guarantee that you've heard it, is you all are about to go get your certification so you can go and teach.
Yeah.
You are not allowed, do not have sex with your students. She literally goes, everyone repeat after me. I will not have sex with my students.
Raise your hands. Yeah.
And I think that like listen, if you're able to get married and you're married for 60 years or whatever, like that's the fucking tits, man. Like I'm all about that. But the reality is that you probably shouldn't be fucking your clients at the gym.
Tough. It's a tough game, man.
It's like it's a dangerous piece.
In almost every, and by the way, there is like tension and relationship and trust and physicality, and there's a lot of things that go into this, which is why I do believe that's a boundary that should probably be established. Listen, can you make that rule? You can't date anybody if you work here. Like I don't know.
But companies have that, like they don't have the rule,
but
as long as you're even.
Also, part of me thinks that rule kind of sucks too. Because unless you're a bar person, we're like, where you're supposed to meet people. I do think that's about creating a safe workplace and a safe business professional relation, like stand. I don't know how I word like to just establish the rules of the game, which is like, hey, like this is going to be a lot better for you if you understand that when I'm being nice to you and trying to help you, that I'm not trying to get in your drawers. Like that's right. It's just like if we're all understanding that, that's a lot easier for everybody to live with. I don't know in a gym that like can you really make that the policy? There are gyms that do it, and I think there's I don't.
Can we say though that there's a difference between?
I don't believe that you should establish to your coaches like there is zero. I do not want you dating anybody that comes through these doors. Like I get. Like I understand. Sure. People are going to find love. Love finds a way, bro, or whatever it is that people say. But the moment it becomes a fucking problem, or the moment you're bouncing, like if you're going to find a relationship with someone, that's one thing. But if you're going to be bouncing around, and if I fucking hear anything of it, if I hear any whispers of it bothering someone else or making someone else uncomfortable, or you cost me one member,
right?
What am I supposed to do? You know, like I just dip your pen in somebody else's ink. And I don't know, like I still believe that like that policy would be ideal if all of your coaches were married, faithful, trustworthy, or only coached people of the same gender. Honestly, could save yourself a lot of fucking headaches. There's plenty of people out there that are like, yeah, men and women can definitely be friends and can hang out platonically solo and have that not be weird or anything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, what I mean, I can pretend that I believe that, but I don't.
I was gonna say,
I can say from a PR standpoint, like, yeah, I get that, but like if I was just watching fucking the show Dexter, and at some point in there, he finds like in one of the season 2, he gets like an AA sponsor who's a chick and she's hot. Well, like, what's his fucking girlfriend supposed to think? Like, are you ever like? Is that it would never make anyone comfortable ever in any situation? Like if you're with somebody and they're spending a lot of time. So I just think that in this line of work, like I coach exclusively males. I have 1 female client, 2. 1 nutrition, 1 that's in personal training, but this is like very specific. This is a person who also coaches. So it's literally a very much like professional peers, like working on these projects towards a higher level of specificity in training than we normally do. If this female only needs me to go to is hiring me like a lot of my wife's clients do, which is like, I pay you so that you can be there and have fun when I'm working out. And that's the reason I come to the gym, is because if I don't pay a coach, I won't go. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to adjust.
We can't be friends.
I'm either not going
to be.
I'm really not. I can be friendly. I'm just not interested in that. And I don't know. Maybe this is more about me than it does the larger circumstances. But I think it's totally fine if you want to make a policy that you probably shouldn't be dating clients, that your coaches shouldn't date clients. I also think it's fine that you just issue like a warning, maybe like, I'm not going to draw a hard line in the sand, but if you start fucking me over here or damaging our business reputation, you're gone, or I will draw a hard line in the sand.
And it's more like Barbossa's pirate code, right? It's like, hey, this is not the law of the land. Like, you're not going to get fired for this, but please understand, like, these are guidelines that are just best practices, which is like, hey, this is kind of a guideline. Like, do what you're going to do. You got to maintain profession, like being a professional. But the reality is, if this becomes a problem, I've warned you. And I'm going to tell you too, having managed humans for a long time in a variety of different industries, there's no such thing as fucking common sense. You would just go around your fucking community and start talking to people. You'd be like, oh, these people are fucking, and it's just like, it's okay. If you're that way, it's like, okay. So I need to make sure, and this is what I've always told anyone, whether we're working with a gym owner or we're doing some other form of consultation with someone. And it is, if you assume anything, you're the one that's in the wrong.
Yep.
Have you told these people that work with you, have you told your people that this is your expectation? It's here. And what we hear so often is that it's, oh, well, no, like this is common sense. And it's like, no, that makes you are in the wrong. You have to make sure that if you believe a standard is X, that you make sure it's very clear that, hey, this is the standard, or this is what we expect. Because whether I've worked with teenagers or adults, it doesn't matter. I'll say something that has literally been told to me since I was 5 years old. And they'll go, I've never heard that before.
Yep.
I'm like, and literally my answer is, that's why I'm here. That's why you have me involved. That's why I'm involved with you right now. So you can hear this for the first fucking time as a goddamn 52-year-old male, that you haven't heard this. Well, good. Now you've heard it.
Well, this goes back to the conversation that we had last week about directing your messaging to beginners. And I think that works for everything. Not even just beginners, but like the most simple interpretation, the most fundamental interpretation of what you want.
Yeah.
We move past so many of those things because we are made it this far in this industry, because those are a given. Those things you do understand. You understand those boundaries. You understand the rules. And a lot of people just don't. They're just new. They just don't think. They don't. It's not that a lot of people don't think blank about the right way or anything. Right. It's like a lot of people don't think.
Period.
That's it. And whether it's talking about nutrition to your clients, whether it's talking about programming or coaching philosophy to your coaches, guys, I've gotten into some very high level discussions about movement and movement principles and programming over the years, John. I got hundreds and hundreds of hours of content with another brand on that like
On another podcast.
another podcast, it's like mostly fucking useless to the people receiving that information, because they're going to make their whole thing about that information and not really that like, well, how does this information help me accomplish anything that the person in front of me wants? And they end up missing the boat completely. And I think when I talk to a lot of coaches and they get into, well, what are you doing for this, and load calculations and the overall volume and all this, the sciencey stuff that this, once you really look at like what the adaptations in a lot of these studies are measured for and how a lot of these studies are done. Well, this shows this at higher reps or lower reps, or this sequence, this is better. It's like they are testing one exercise on untrained people for the most part. And I also believe a lot in the scientific studies around exercise science and weight loss and fat loss and stuff like this. Unless these people are fed a fucking diet via goddamn feeding tube under supervision for the entire time, I don't believe for even a second that they are going to accurately control for calories and macronutrient intake on any large scale study for any amount of time. I promise you, you will not get 100 people to eat within an exact caloric fucking number that aren't lying to you or that aren't tracking it improperly. The margin for error in that, when most of these things are self-reported, almost all are self-reported, that margin for error is fucking infinite. And when people rely on all those details, it's like, listen, all of these things that you're saying are probably true, but remove that specific fucking piece of research, that specific outcome that you've already just decided you want, like that's just going to reinforce your own thing. Just remove that. Don't even rely on that. Just, okay, now just coach the person in front of you. Just please get them there. And then it doesn't matter. You don't have to prove anything to me or to them. But a lot of this stuff becomes very high level and these coaches just aren't thinking. I mean, if I worry the most about like what specific, unless I'm dealing with someone who has a very specific progression that they need. Youth sports, I have some very specific progressions that I want to do as and even it's not that specific. It's like, we're going to start higher reps for a bit to build up, and then we're going to narrow it up in big chunks, and I'm sure in like 3 to 6 week segments where it's going to get heavier and smaller reps and then we're going to jump back and move things up. But that's like mostly it. And that's not even that important. It's just a basic progression.
Well, and you probably learn it anecdotally, and it's not based off of whatever the Reese's fucking science that's come out of Johns Hopkins University Press or whatever the fuck, right? Like it's like anecdotally, I've learned this is the progression to take this group through, not because of some fucking study has told me that I need to be able to do this.
And not only that, it doesn't even, because what matters in fitness and health is what happens in the long run. The short term is only there to reinforce somebody's initial commitment. What happens in the first 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks only needs to be, and really the first day, 2 days, only needs to be enough to inspire them to continue. Because what really matters when someone comes in and joins your gym, whether it's martial arts, fitness, weight loss, CrossFit, powerlifting, whatever it is you're doing, bodybuilding, if their first few days there are highly optimized for what, training volume, fucking like adaptation, fucking like only movement quality, you know what I mean? Or functionality of the exercises that we're choosing. We're not using machines. It's functional. It's like, all right, dude, whatever. But if they're only optimized for that and not optimized for what it will take to keep this person interested and give them momentum that's going to keep them in the gym for 2 years, if that person comes in and tries for a month and then quits, 2 years later, they are so much worse off than if that person came in and just like had a good time and had fun and got enough results kind of to keep them coming to the gym for 2 years. I was working with an MMA gym the other day, a martial arts studio, and doing some intro class stuff. And we're talking about and I really like to stay out of what and how someone coaches. But the concept I need to make sure people understand, which is
the principle.
What are we optimizing for? Right? We are optimizing. Yep. I don't care if this is an intro course. We have 2 hours. You have 2 hours. Are we going to come in and go nuts to butts with somebody? Pull them into missionary position, aka full guard. Like that's what you're gonna do for day one for somebody. That's not cool. It's not fun. When they thought about starting jujitsu and being like a badass, like what do they think? Fucking choke people out. I'm gonna fucking be breaking. Like give them some of that. Give them that, even though they're never gonna get that on a normal. Like give them that early on, because I've seen so many intro stuff and first times when people come in over these last few years, or what they do, or same thing with boxing, kickboxing, striking. We come in and you make somebody do footwork ladders for an hour. Yeah, they got to learn footwork, but can they feel like they threw a punch and that it was cool? Like, can we just do that? Or are we going to do shadow boxing and footwork for an hour? Because that's not going to make them feel like a fighter. They got to feel like they've done something. So let them throw some shit quality punches. Let them hit a bag. Let them kick a bag as hard as they can. Like, set it up somehow, some way, so that we're optimized that this person enjoys this experience enough to want to come back for 2 straight years. And I think that's so important, more important than anything else that we do, is that if I want to spread, whether it's jujitsu or self-defense, or if I care about these self-defense skills of the 10 people that attend my self-defense course, it is not that they're going to learn anything in this self-defense course that is actually going to be retained truthfully, or that they're going to go and drill and practice enough to be able to implement on the fly when they're scared. They're not going to have enough reps in 2 hours of anything to where it's going to be second nature, so that when things are flying everywhere, it's fear and it's dark and it really matters, all the stress and adrenaline, that they're not going to panic and freeze up and forget everything that they know. The only way to actually make that stuff work and to be better at defending yourself is to be inspired enough early on to enjoy it, to then train and to drill things. Then that way, 2 years later, you are so much better equipped than you were if you had the best, most optimized course 2 years ago for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. If I want people to be healthy for the long run, I got to make them like working out. They got to have an experience that fosters that. And I think that is the one of the most important lessons when people are worried about science or whatever's right or wrong in the fitness industry, is like, well, I don't know what is right, what is wrong. Are we doing high carbs now, or have we walked that back? Like seed oils now. Like now it's like, okay, seed oils were bad, but it's like, well, I mean, maybe not actually all that bad. It's detached from caloric intake. If we control for calories intake, I was almost going to make a post today, but I just don't want the arguments from people that don't think either, that are just attached to one side. But I would say for real that if you're consuming seed oils and food dyes, I'd rather have you consume seed oils and food dyes and not be 50 pounds overweight than be 50 pounds overweight for another year, but like really cut out your red 4 dye or whatever. Like, it's like, all right, I promise being overweight is worse for your health than seed oils in a vacuum. Right. And I think there's a practical, pragmatic approach to the fitness, the way we coach fitness, the way we teach fitness, the way we teach nutrition. That should be about like, give them a good experience and optimize. It's the balance between, is this the pill that the puppy needs to eat? It's just the cheese we wrap the pill in.
Correct.
Right. And there's that balancing that is actually what coaching is, because my kid's going to have some ice cream at home sometimes. Sometimes I'm gonna let them have some ice cream. But if you let a 5 or 6 year old child choose, they're gonna have ice cream every goddamn fucking day.
Every meal.
So yeah, what are you optimizing for? That's always the question. What are we optimizing for? You want to be you want them to be the best at jujitsu they could possibly be in the next 60 minutes. We want to cover the most ground, that they just develop the most skills and learn the most. They're not gonna like that. That's the truth. If I work on somebody's squat movement quality with we are really going to refine it, just a true perfectionist, because I am a fucking expert. You know what I'm saying? How much fun is that person going to have in an hour? And how much of a workout are they going to get? Probably not fucking any either. Because it's just going to be like autistic adjustments in minutia and shit they don't understand.
And they'll pretend, right? They'll fake it until they realize, this really isn't very fun, and I don't want to do this. And I can think of a million other things that I want to do. I love that anecdotally, right? Your opinion of the science and whether it's nutrition science or the fitness science of all these things and all these variables and all this stuff, right? Have I ever told you about the garlic study that I did when I was in college?
You might have, but I'd like to hear it on the show.
So here's it is on the show. So this is exactly, so it lines up perfectly with what you've just described, which is like, hey, anecdotally, I think this is bullshit. Yeah. Like common sense tells me that all these variables that are being accounted for, whatever they claim is true for this supplement, whatever they claim is true for this certain type of movement or exercise. God, remember several months ago, we talked about there was a fucking article talking about how advantageous wall sits were.
Yeah.
of like, oh, it's the best. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Could you imagine like someone's first time that they come to work out with you is you're like, well, this is the most optimized exercise. So we're just going to fucking wall sit forever. So I have my buddy who is a master's in evolutionary biology, whatever, PhD student, but we're all fucking broke because we're in college. Like we're so broke. And because you're Mormon, you're broke and married and have children because that's what you do when you have no money. And so he goes, hey, there's this garlic study and they're going to pay us $100 if we agree to take these garlic pills. And I'm like, okay, where do I need to be? Because I'll take $100. And so that's what we did. So we went to the random like science section of the university and we go and we fill out some paper and because he had already done it before I did. He's like, it's legit. Like they paid me. I'm like, all right, so I'll go. He's like, this is all you have to say. So here's the answers that you need to say for the study. So I already know what I'm going to answer before I see any of the things. And I just have to agree to take 90 days. And I have to take like these horse pill capsules that are full of garlic.
Ugh.
Like it's just, you're just taking, so you just say, yes, I'm going to take it. And yes, I agree to come on these days to do blood work or do whatever, right? Do whatever we agreed to do. And he and I both got like 4 or 5 days into taking these pills. He's like, dude, I reek of garlic. Like, it's overwhelming. But the idea is like, in order to be able to get paid, you have to make it through like the whole thing. Like you have to make it through. So you have to say, yes, I'm doing these things. And so because he had gotten all the way through, he's just like, this is your answers. And he's like, all right, hey, it's day 5. Like, how are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm pissing garlic.
Yeah, I smell
Like,
everybody.
like
knows.
just everything. Like if I work out, like it reeks. He's like, just keep, he's like, you don't even need to take the pills. He's like, you just need to do these answers. And so that's what it ended up being.
Yeah.
Was we got done. And I'm sure that fucking thing either got axed because it was turning you into a giant fucking garlic clove, or it went forward and got sold under some fucking like Optimum Nutrition brand as like some weight loss entity or whatever. But it was like, no way were we doing any of the things that it was saying that we had to do. We just wanted to be able to collect the cash.
The amount of
And
people
so-
I knew that did studies when I was in school, when I was like in Fargo up north, that was a bigger. Yeah, when you live in the Midwest, Fargo is a pretty big city, you know. Fargo.
Well, I mean, a movie was made about it.
Right,
So
a movie. When you go up there, people they would do studies. You could just go to I think it was called Praxis or something like this. You would go and just do medical studies on medicine. They would test medicine on you, whether it's cream. Some would be overnights. Some of them would just be a pill you're going to take every day, and you're just whatever. But guys, they didn't fucking control for anything nutritionally or activity wise at all. They didn't even really control for who you were necessarily, which is, by the way, who do you suppose, let's say demographic wise, let's say average income, who is going to go and do this thing, whether it's overnight, couple nights, sometimes it's a week, but just who desperately needs $1,200 that bad or $500 that bad? It's like, this is poor people. This is like, this is immigrants. This is college students. The biggest barrier for most of us, whether or not we could do it, was like, you'd have to pass a drug test, and marijuana was included in that drug test. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my friends would be like, fuck, I got to stop smoking weed for 30 days, but I'll save money not smoking weed, and then I'll go do a Praxis thing for a weekend, and I'll get like $1,800. And so, you know, that's like, and by the way, you literally, so if I want to walk this, let's just explain what's going on here. We're not forcing the poor people to come in and let us test wild new experimental drugs on them. But only poor people come in and sign up for these experimental drugs. So like, they're literally just trying, and these aren't things that people need. These aren't in response to anything. They're just like, we got to see if this gives you a rash, and they're just going to rub it on you and see how that goes, and just do this every day. And you know, it's, yeah, it was pretty nice.
Well, how bad is the rash?
Yeah, I mean, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So
speaking of experimental drugs, Tyler.
Yes.
There was another topic you had seen. So we've dedicated a lot of different episodes from different angles on the topic of Ozempic and weight loss drugs, but you did come across some of the recent news.
So there's a big article written, I don't even know. Listen, nowadays, I don't even care about the source anymore. I'm going to use the quotes. Elon Musk wrote on X, nothing would do more to bolster Americans' health as he pitches weight loss drugs to lower healthcare spending. And I'm kind of about it. I don't know what to say. Like, go back to the things I said before about like seed oils or whatever. Like, if you are 50 to 100 pounds overweight, there is almost nothing you can do for your health that would be worse than spending another year 50 to 100 pounds overweight. Right? Like, I just don't know. Like, let's say you started drinking a lot of booze, but you lost 100 pounds in that year. It might have been a sideways move if you got the weight up. Might have been for real.
Yeah.
Might be a sideways move. And I could be wrong, but I don't think that people understand the consequences of being dramatically overweight. And this is, I'm saying, not just in a fat sense either. Because people want to get all up in everyone I know who's like just dipping their toes in the fitness space wants to get all riled up about BMI. And every person who's like, has a reasonable amount of muscles, like, well, BMI says I'm obese. I'd have to be a fucking twig to not be obese. And I was like, it's not the fucking.
I was one of those people for years.
Yeah, but first off, you're obese is okay. We're not calling you obese, but you're in the same risk category as obese people for all of the factors that BMI matters for, which is like population-wide mortality, heart disease, all these things. John, you and I don't. What are you? I'm about 280, 285 right now. What are you weighing?
I'm 270 right now.
270, fucking Slimbo here. You're almost a real heavyweight. 5 more pounds. You cut to be a real heavyweight. Now, at that weight,
but we're both like 6'5", 6'6". Like
you
and
I, however, regardless of what level of leanness we have, aren't actually at any better risk of heart disease or lowered risk of heart disease or really all-cause mortality, essentially. As far as disease goes, than someone who's fucking 5'11" and 275 of mashed potatoes. Really, anecdotally, if you just look at the population of us and the population of them, do you think that we live longer than them?
Yeah, do you see a bunch of 80-year-old big dudes cruising around?
Actually, probably not. So that's always the way I look at this. Is like, yeah, I get it. You're fitter than they are, and you look better. And is this a vanity metric? It's not what BMI is for. And also, who cares? It's just not for you. I don't understand why that metric is even given to people, because it just makes them butt hurt. I've had clients that get very, very attached to that term. Oh, it just bothered me. I'd always been in this category and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, but you have been. So what are we? Right. I get it bothers you. So let's do something. Let's get it off. Let's. I don't know what to say, but I guess what I mean is I think that whether it's weight loss drugs, whether it's fucking fasting, whether it's a peanut butter and jelly diet only, like I'd prefer you lose weight by going very high protein, reasonably low carbs, while building lots of good food habits and learning to eat safe, healthy, whole foods. That'd be great. Right. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the outcome. That's the end goal that I hope to guide my people to, that they learn that experience is worthwhile while they get the weight off, so that in the end they can live and settle in this pocket where they have good control. But if you did a peanut butter and jelly only diet and kept your calories low enough, and you had low protein and high carbs or whatever for a year, but you got that 80 pounds off, fine. You got the weight off. People don't understand how important it is for you to get that fucking weight off. To the point where I almost don't fucking care how you do it. Get it off and then figure out how to keep it off. I just don't know. What we've been doing as a country hasn't worked. So with these medications objectively work to get the weight off. The only thing that would work better is if we stapled your fucking mouth shut. Right? That's about it. If we literally stapled your goddamn mouth shut so you couldn't shovel food down your fucking face. Okay, that's essentially what Ozempic is doing. It's just making eating so unpleasant that you actually don't want to do it. That's fucking kind of fine. Because I'll go around with a stapler if these things weren't invented. I don't know what else to do here. So I think that these are not the COVID vaccine, which was just like invented at quote warp speed, even though we're supposed to believe there was we got tons of it. We know this is safe long term. We also know it works. Using terms like safe and effective, while it is absolutely objectively now in hindsight neither, in any measurable category, it is neither of those things. Right. These GLP-1 drugs have been around for a long time. They've been used for a long time. They have a different case use than for weight loss. But because of that, now weight loss is the outcome. So essentially repurposing this for weight loss is the reason that it's got such wide attention. That's the reason now that people are aware of it. But there is plenty of research done on, and by the way, maybe some of this is going to change. Maybe we don't have research on what it does if you take it for 50 years. Plenty of people have taken this stuff for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and come off of it and been fine. The thing you need to do is learn new habits while you do it so you can keep the weight off. I don't believe that we should get on. Do you think the impression that people have of these weight loss drugs is that you get on them and you stay on them forever?
I do, because I think that is what continues to get perpetuated by not just the fitness industry, but society at large, which is one of these things where it's like you're on them forever. Like, oh, this is the biggest risk. Like you can't
if you
come
get
off
of it, you're gonna, and that's true. By the way, if the only variable that changes is we're gonna delete your appetite, and then it's gonna work, and then you're not fucking self-aware, and you don't think about actually what's going on, and nobody informs you, and nobody teaches you throughout that whole process. In the end, you'll lose all the weight, and then we remove the appetite suppressant. What's going to happen? Well, you're going to eat to fill your appetite, just like you always have. You ate to fill your appetite when you were on Ozempic. Your appetite was just castrated. So, but the goal then really is for us as a fitness industry. I'm not here to talk anybody out of taking Ozempic. I'm not. That's between you and your fucking doctor. It's just one of those, or into it. I'm indifferent. I don't have bad things to say about it, though. I will say, unless you want to be on it forever, which does, I think, then introduce a greater scope of risk. Like, obviously, right? Anything I have to take for 20 years is going to be riskier than if I take it for 9 months, right? I'm not fucking, like, don't be stupid. So I believe that if you want to take it for 9 months, then let's truly observe what is going on. You'll know if we learn to track your food. So you're going to see that we're not just dealing with your hunger and your cravings and whether or not you're able to be disciplined enough to lose the weight. You're going to eat an amount that then we're going to measure. And then you're going to, oh my God, look at how much weight I lost. You go, perfect. That's how many calories you should be eating now. And you're going to go, oh, that's eye-opening. So let's now prepare for the day that you're off of this medication and the appetite comes back, so you know what is allowed and what isn't allowed, and so you know what is excess. And then you also have something that you want to defend. You have progress that you want to keep, because people normally, when they get going, they're like, what are they going to lose 5 pounds or something like this with a lot of effort? It's an uphill battle. It's miserable because people's cravings, they're like spoiled little motherfucking kids. Spoiled little kids when they first start dieting, when they're an overweight person. Why can't I have this? I don't normally eat breakfast, so I can pig the fuck out at night and then feel like shit in the fucking morning because it's an 18-hour fucking bloated, binge-eating fucking the shit I hear from men who are like, well, I don't normally eat breakfast. You're fucking fat as shit, dude. I don't give a shit what you do. Here's what we're doing now. So like all the fucking stuff, people act like babies when they start this process because the cravings and the habituation has its claws in them. It's so deep rooted that I think once people get momentum, they can gather a lot of momentum when they don't have those cravings and habits like dragging them down. They don't have that anchor around their neck while they're trying to make progress here. So I think that's the big thing, is that like we remove that, they get progress, they lose 50 pounds and they go, oh, there's no fucking way I'm going back. I like the way I look so much. Like, I'll do what I need to do to learn this stuff. We're going to figure this out. Or they can just choose, like, I'm not ready yet. I haven't learned this. Let's delay coming off the medication. That's totally fine. But if someone just claws tooth and nail and feels miserable and starving and hates it, and feels like they're swimming against the current to lose 5 pounds, so much trial and error, and it's mostly air, and there's only 5 pounds. What are they inspired to, like, rally the troops and circle the wagons and fucking hunker down and get real discipline? Are they inspired to defend that 5 pounds progress, to keep pushing through? Yeah, it's not impactful enough. So get the fucking weight off. Just get the weight off. That's where I'm at with this. And I think, we talk about to lower healthcare spending, these GLP-1 medications, not specifically Ozempic, but the ones that are compound pharmacies are able to do, that are like the off-brand stuff, much more affordable. Like, to where I have clients that are very wealthy, and I have clients that are normal people. It's not just the wealthy clients that can afford the GLP-1 compounded ones. And actually the ones that they don't even start on the Ozempic brand stuff anymore, anyone, just because the Ozempic branded stuff is very much a single use It's more expensive because it's like almost like an EpiPen thing, because the method of delivery and the dosage is what they actually have the patent on. And that is that it does have a specific use for just diabetes, essentially. So these ones where people are taking it and it's the compound pharmacy version of it, way more affordable. If we're going to subsidize anything, why wouldn't we preemptively subsidize this before we subsidize fucking all of these other things that we're going to have to do downstream when people are fat? This becomes, in my opinion, systemically, when you intervene at the wrong point in a system, you create the problem. You essentially facilitate the problem you're trying to solve, right? So if we just give more resources to fighting obesity on the obese side of it,
right,
fighting the symptoms of obesity, all we're doing is making it easier on people to be obese while not preventing anyone from being obese. I'm not saying we got to cut any money for this, but like you definitely can spend less money on that and put it in the front end. Where you intervene in a complicated system, a complex system, is the single most important factor. And I do think that intervening at this moment, at the appetite, is the thing. And it's not something you can eat your way through the other side. And once we have the appetite suppressed, people need guidance. And that's the one thing that's not being done right now. Everybody I know who's been given these medications has not been had a single conversation about how much they really should eat, what protein they should eat, what they should look out for, what the long-term plan is. Because the people that are actively prescribing to the people that I coach who have taken it are expecting you to be on it forever. They'd rather you be on it forever.
Well, because, and this is what makes it complicated, right? Because it is one of those things where, okay, our recent studies coming out that are saying, hey, this is actually shrinking the muscle of the heart. Yeah, it is, right? Like that was the most recent research. It's like, hey, Ozempic may be doing these things. But I think the point you bring up of like, when we are introducing an intervention, at what point in that journey of the individual and then us as a society, that becomes a lot more relevant. And here are the facts. Like I have to be on a very aggressive blood pressure medication because of genetics. The number one issue that we're trying to avoid is high blood pressure that leads to a stroke or a heart attack. But that blood pressure medication holds the risk of stripping my kidneys to the point where I'll need new kidneys.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a bunch of other issues that come along with it.
Yeah. The cure will kill you.
Right. So what do we do then? It's not that I just don't take the medication, because the reality is that we're at a situation where if you're 200 pounds overweight, the problems that lie with allowing that to continue are vastly worse. And that's why if you're going to try and compare it like you did, Tyler, like this is not a COVID vaccine versus something that's been established, which is like, because the risk of the COVID
wasn't that bad.
There's nowhere near being 200 fucking pounds overweight, right?
Yeah.
And so what do we do then? All we do is I take a blood test every 6 months to check what? My fucking kidney levels.
Yeah.
And great, this looks okay. There's always a risk. We're always worried about it, and we're going to keep an eye on it. So it's one of those things where it's like, guess what? If you're 200 pounds overweight and you haven't done an image of your heart and you haven't started looking at that shit, then you're fucking burying your head in the goddamn sand. And again, I think the guidance is a really big part of this, because no matter how you land on this, because you're going to have fitness professionals, you're going to have people that are in this world that are going to be like, fuck that thing. Just eat good food. Just do this. Just do that. It's like, right. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about emergency level type activity where we're going to cut the stomach in half and fucking staple it shut. That's what the level we're at. Now we don't have to gut somebody like a goddamn pig and have them do that,
and
because if they don't
eat their way to the other side like they did.
Right.
Because like the problem with the lap band surgery, it worked until the habits powered their way through, because here the psychology of overeating is beaten down because there is an immediate consequence and it sucks, and you will not rebound again the next day. You won't guilt your way through it the next day. You won't guilt eat. You just can't, because it sucks.
Yeah, and there's an author who's written a bunch of books, and it's all about like the legalization of drugs. And his name is Johann Hari. And so he's written a bunch of different books. But in his thesis, his argument that he makes is that the idea that you should legalize all drugs, the hardest drugs out there, based off of the models that it's if you provide the drugs to people that are drug addicts, but in order for them to get access to clean drugs, you're going to require, it's a mandatory requirement that they are essentially in a situation where they are doing therapy, they're doing these other pieces to where if they still want to do the drugs, then they can, but they're getting the help of like what's missing in your world that's requiring you to do heroin or do meth, whatever. And I think it's a very similar model that we should be taking,
harm reduction,
which is, if you need to do Ozempic, if you need to do this because that's where you're at, then just like you said, Tyler, it's like you need the guidance is super important. And don't allow the pharmaceutical industry to do what it's built to do, which is to make a profit.
Yeah.
So if it's going to only desire to make a profit, it doesn't fucking care. It's going to give you the things.
That is where I get a little bit alarmed when we talk about the government going to subsidize it. That's where I get alarmed, because now it's like, well, that will keep the price up for the pharmaceutical companies enough to where now this is just because what do you think the COVID vaccine stuff was? Like, it wasn't free. It was free to you and I. The government was paying paying taxpayer money to the pharmaceutical companies, billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. And the whole booster sham was essentially there to just keep that gravy train rolling forever. And I don't want that to be the case with these GLP-1 medications, because if there's one thing a government will do is they will do what they do forever, and it will never get cheaper and never get more efficient. Never. So that's my concern with this, is if we're going to subsidize. Well, what if we just understand the demand is there? What if we subsidize it in small chunks? I don't even know, or with the plan to simply, so then they can ramp up the scope of production with an end goal of essentially chopping down then the subsidies so that now the system can stand on its own, right? If we subsidize it so that they can actually start to produce 100 times as much material as they need to in a year, and then we can start selling, we can create the market, then we get back out of the way, and the prices have to stay below a certain point. Listen, I'm too libertarian to be that stoked about governments regulating much of any of this and having their hands on it, because it never works out the way you say it's going to. It just never is that way. So that's like my concern as a whole. But if everyone who is overweight truly tried to eat better this year, and then if that doesn't work, fine, get on medication and then go back to the thing that you tried again. Start that learning process over again. I'm fine with this. I'm totally fine with this. And if you guys have clients that are out there who are at their wits' end, and maybe you know that you're trying to tell them stuff that they're just not doing, that they are in their own way, they are not making the change. Like, there is a medication that will make that not their fucking choice. And sometimes what you choose to eat shouldn't be your own fucking choice for a lot of these people. Like, they are their own worst enemies. And that's the way that's kind of the way that I look at it. Is like, at least this medication is going to slap the fucking fork right out of their fucking hand, because they ain't going to want to eat it. They're not going to do it. This is how you get the space and the wins and the breathing room in order to make that progress, in order to teach the lessons needed in order to make that progress long term.
Because then they'll hear you. Because they actually have something to be like, hey,
if I got to tell you that eating fucking Cinnamon Toast Crunch at 11 o'clock at night is not good and it's not going to help you lose weight, like, if that's a conversation I have to have, it's just fucking, I'm going to have that once. But it also means that you haven't heard anything that I've said up until this point. That's a frustrating spot to be in as a coach. And it's like, I'd rather they just not want that. Because if I have to explain to somebody who wants, we'll say they need Cinnamon Toast Crunch in the middle of the night, like, that's, fuck me, dude. I don't know what to say. It's all poorly aligned. So.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys, it's got us wrapped up. Send us at the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram, or you can email us at thedudes@hackyourgym.com. Send us your worst day, crazy day, wildest day. You got 1 story, 2 stories, 5 stories. Send us those stories your way, or send your stories our way. I've talked for an hour, running out of gas. Send your stories our way, because I want to hear them. We'll share them in anonymity, because I think they're fucking pretty funny, and I think a lot of you gym owners will relate to. Then next week we'll drop the invite to send us your truly best days, best wins of the year, because I want to do kind of a year-end wrap-up where I do want to hear what's the most impactful shit you've done this year, right? How many, you got any 100-pound weight loss? Let's hear it. 50 pounds. Whose life have you changed the most this year? What actual progress on the ground for the humans that you work with is what's keeping you in the game? Because we want to hear that as well. So, but not this week.
And if you don't have the wins, because you are getting started, it is the very beginning of the process, and you're trying to just gather as much information as you can. We have a number of folks that have reached out since we released the episode, which talked about the Revolution framework, the previous episode from this one. And we are giving you access to that so it's the very first part of the framework. So it's results first. This is going to be the framework, right? That helps you prioritize all the client success, right? Outcomes above everything else. And you can implement personalized nutrition plans, right? Get you started on the custom offer stacks we talk a lot about, how you build accountability systems, goal tracking for every client. All these pieces is the first step that we do when we start working with a client in the Gear Academy. Come in, since we made the offer still stands. So reach out to us at the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram, ask for it. Say, hey, I'm ready. I would want to jump into this. This is the free item. Can I get you kicked off? Gives you an action plan template. It's full of actionable steps, deeper understanding stuff. We give you some corresponding podcast episodes that go with it. And this is going to be a document that we'll give out to you. You can run through it. In fact, we'll also run through it with you. So this is kind of the goal here is to get you guys started and moving and thinking about these things first, and results. Everything we do comes back to the client success, client results. So everything you do in your business, it builds a solid foundation, runway to be able to do what you want to do next. So
Not at the expense of profitability. That's the goal.
Exactly.
A system that is set up to optimize the results and outcomes for the client also allows the clients to invest as much as they possibly choose to early on in the system. And I think that is very, very, very important. Because
I can promise you,
this isn't about castrating your fucking wallet here so that you can just make sure that everybody has the best time. It's not really what this is. You are truly able to win on both sides of the coin here.
And the secret sauce does not become where you build all this foundation and then it's you run ads in order to be, and then pay us $2,000 a month to run those ads for you, because you're not a gym, you're actually a marketing agency and you're confused. It won't be that.
All right, guys, thanks for listening. Follow the show at the Gym Owners Podcast on Instagram. Send us your worst day as a gym owner, your horror stories, your wild stories. Send us those at that same account. You can follow me at Tyler F. Stone. That's Tyler EFFIN Stone. And John?
And you can follow me on Instagram at JBanksFL.
Groovy. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week.